Yes, I treat a lot of the most famous faces in television, music, fashion. And yes, I'm often holding a syringe, I'm often holding a laser. But when I'm holding those devices and using those instruments, I'm also talking to my patients about how they slept the night before, what they ate for
Mhm.
breakfast, their stress levels, because we know that the skin, the gut, and the mind are intimately connected. And no matter what I do in the office for a patient, and no matter how much money they spend in my office with me, no matter how many times they come back to see me again and again, if they're not doing those things at home, if they're not taking care of their gut and they're not taking care of their stress levels and they're not protecting their circadian health and their sleep, then it's the procedures are only going to go so far and they're only going to last so long.
For another episode of the Save Yourself podcast. Dr. Whitney, thank you so much for being here.
It is my absolute pleasure. I was so thrilled to meet you in person just a few weeks back, and we just hit it off, and I'm just absolutely thrilled to be a guest. So
Yeah, I know we'll do this in person also, but I'm so happy to be able to chat with you today. So I'm going to do a quick bio. It's not very quick, but I'll try to get the biggest points and then we'll go into it. Okay.
great.
So Dr. Whitney Bowe, guys, if you don't know her, she's in like one of the most in-demand dermatologists in the country, and she is a distinguished thought leader in her field. She's credited as a dermatologist who ignited the viral skin cycling phenomenon, impacting over 3.5 billion people across the globe. She's frequently called upon to share her knowledge on national platforms. She did her undergraduate at Yale. Then she went to UPenn, and then she's been the medical director of her practice. She also has a clinical assistant professor um, at dermatology in at Mount Sinai. She has published over 40 scientific articles and book chapters. You are like amazing. You're one of the
I'm a
exceptional women.
nerd.
I love that. So the past 7 years, your practice has been fully booked and capped. You have a signature aesthetic uh, called the Bow Glow. You're trusted by celebrities, models, TV personalities. And then you also have like Dr. Whitney Bowe Beauty, which is, I want to hear more about that because we want to hear kind of the research and how you have formulated your products and the fact that you have this new product that's super viral. By the way, so I brought something with me. I have
Oh,
been using both of these, and thank you for giving these to me. So this is the Bow Glow cleanser, and this is a creamy face wash, which I love because in the winter I don't want something that's super drying. So what's so great about this one?
yeah, so that cleanser is formulated with acetylhexapeptide 49, like a special calming, soothing peptide. And it also has niacinamide, ceramides, marshmallow root extract. It's incredibly calming and nourishing and doesn't strip the barrier. But we also did crazy studies on it showing that it actually removes 100% of sunscreen, foundation, pollution. So it's a beautiful, luxurious cleanser for somebody who has more like dry, sensitive, mature skin, and you're looking to really cleanse the skin, but not damage the skin barrier.
And I love this because I traveled with it and it was perfect size to kind of put into my travel. And because when I travel, I used to never travel with a skincare kind of cleanser. And I felt like I would just take off my makeup with a makeup wipe or something and then wash. And it was just a mess. So now that I travel more, I really love this. And then the Advocacy also I've been using for the past couple of weeks since you sent it to me, and I've really enjoyed it. So I want to thank you so much for the
Oh my gosh, my
products.
pleasure. The Advocacy Vitamin C Serum won 2 awards now for being the best vitamin C serum on the market. And it was published in one of our top dermatology journals, which is like the gold standard of science. Just as a background, I'm a research scientist, right? I'm a
Yeah.
dermatologist, but I'm also a research scientist. And so, I brought that kind of science to the products and we do that kind of rigorous testing. So that's been like a game-changing product for so many people. I'm so excited that you love it.
I love it. Now, I know you don't live, I'm going to kind of go off script because I just want to talk to you about, how you do it all, how, what you're excited about, because I think what everybody wants to know, I think, and you're the expert, is we get a lot of noise in the dermatology field. From skincare, from plastic surgeons, from aesthetic people, from dermatologists, and everyone's telling us to do different things. And if I came into your office today, and as a 40-something-year-old woman, I'm like traveling all the time, and my life is so crazy, and I'm like, Dr. Bowe, I just want something very easy that's fundamentally going to help my skin. Like, what are the things that products and procedures and things that you would recommend?
So that's a great question. So first of all, you have glowing skin. So you are doing it, but you are exactly exemplifying the skin gut mind connection. So that's something I consider myself
Mm,
integrative dermatologist, a three-dimensional dermatologist. So yes, I treat a lot of the most famous faces in television, music, fashion. And yes, I'm often holding a syringe. I'm often holding a laser. But when I'm holding those devices and using those instruments, I'm also talking to my patients about how they slept the night before, what they ate for
mhm.
breakfast, their stress levels, because we know that the skin, the gut, and the mind are intimately connected. And no matter what I do in the office for a patient, and no matter how much money they spend in my office with me, no matter how many times they come back to see me again and again, if they're not doing those things at home, if they're not taking care of their gut and they're not taking care of their stress levels and they're not protecting their circadian health and their sleep, then it's the procedures are only going to go so far and they're only going to last so long. So the first thing that I do is I say before we do any of these procedures, like bring a bag of the products that you're using, tell me about your day-to-day habits, tell me about your lifestyle habits, and we try to make realistic modifications. They don't have to be complicated, simple modifications that I know we're laying the groundwork for success. So then if the patient wants to invest in more expensive, more cutting edge
Mhm.
technologies and procedures, at least I know that they're doing everything at home to really optimize those results. And anyone who's listening who's like, well, this is all well and good, but I don't have access to a celebrity dermatologist.
Mhm.
I'm not going to be able to spend a couple $100,000 a year on these protocols and things that you're
Yeah.
doing. You don't have to. And that's actually like one of the main reasons why I started this clinically proven skincare brand was, to be able to put in a bottle, take thousands of data points from treating thousands of patients over the years, and also my background as a research scientist, and, create formulations that are clinically proven to work at home. You don't need a 10-step skincare routine. You don't need a 12-step skincare routine. You don't need to spend a fortune with a dermatologist. If you make certain changes to your lifestyle, you take care of your gut, you take care of your mind, you take care of your stress levels, and then you use really high quality, clinically proven, well formulated
Mhm.
products. We're talking about a few multitasking products. We're not talking about a 10-step, routine in the morning, just a few key products. You can see dramatic, visible, measurable, statistically significant changes in your skin. So right off the bat, I would talk to you about just your daily habits, right?
Mhm.
I would have you bring in a bag of your skincare. We would
Mhm.
absolutely go through a skincare routine. I'd probably customize a skin cycling program for you.
Mhm.
So in the morning, consistency is key. In the morning, you do not skin cycle. So in the
Mhm.
morning, what you have right there, the daily
Mhm.
staples,
Yeah.
the Glow
And then the
cleanser,
sunscreen. Yeah.
the vitamin C
Yeah.
serum. I use my Glow moisturizer after that because I have very dry skin, and then a
Yeah.
sunscreen. And that's all you
Mhm.
need in the morning, right?
Yeah.
In the evening, you can skin cycle, which is basically cycling through your powerful actives. Like if you wanted to start introducing a
Mhm.
retinoid, an
Mhm. Yes.
exfoliating product, like those are things that when people come to me, they're like, I have fine lines, wrinkles, dark spots. I really
Yes.
want to stimulate collagen in my skin. What can I do? We start introducing those powerful actives, and I customize a skin cycling program for them at night. And then I will look at the skin and say, okay, if they're getting some etched lines in the angry 11s or
Mhm.
around the crow's feet, we might do a little bit of Botox,
Mhm.
Dysport. They may want to do a lip flip. That's a very
Mhm.
popular procedure in my office right now, taking a little Botox or Dysport, injecting right outside the border of the lip to just
Mm.
gently evert the lip, give a little bit more volume without adding any kind of filler to the lip. Sometimes we'll do a resurfacing laser, like this is Fraxel season for me. So I'm
Yeah.
doing a ton of Fraxel lasers, which is a non-ablative resurfacing laser, which can, just brighten the skin, even out the skin tone, speed skin cell turnover. It's actually been proven to prevent precancers from turning into cancer. So my patients who have a lot of sun damage will sometimes come in for a couple of Fraxel treatments.
Mhm.
Sometimes we'll do a microneedling treatment. So there's so mmany different things that I can customize to that individual patient, and really come up with a program that it's less is more. I'm known for my natural aesthetic. I'm known for
Mm.
having people just radiate with health. You want a compliment like, wow, you look like you're just glowing with health. Your skin looks so healthy. You look beautiful. You don't want someone to come up and be like, oh, your filler looks good, or oh, what did you,
Yeah,
right? Like
totally.
that's not a compliment for me, right?
That
That's
is not a compliment.
exactly. So, so it's really about less is more and just looking well rested, like the best version of you.
Yeah, I think that's really the goal. How do you feel about like nowadays? I think there's like this pushback against fillers. I see it all over social media. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think that fillers do last a lot longer than we initially
Mm.
thought that they lasted. And I did do a social media post about just like a woman who did an MRI, basically of her face, and it shows that some of the filler has been there for decades plus, right?
Yeah.
And I do think that that's the case. But actually, if you speak to that woman, I actually was directly in contact with her, and she responded underneath my post, and she's like, "Thank you so much for posting that because like I actually love my fillers. I look amazing. I'm thrilled that they're still lasting in my face. And I don't even need to maintain them. Like they don't look unnatural for her, but they do last a lot longer, than I think people initially thought that they did. Oftentimes, when it comes to filler, I usually talk to my patients about the different categories of fillers, and if they're interested in filler, we approach it in a very natural way. We only use the amount of filler necessary in order to sort of rejuvenate, enhance just the way that they want to enhance. And I often will talk to them about there's hyaluronic acid fillers, which are things like Juvederm, Restylane. Hyaluronic acid works like a sponge. It binds 1,000 times its weight in water,
Mm.
right? So it immediately, you see it right away as soon as I inject it. The nice thing about hyaluronic acid is that you can reverse it. I have an enzyme in
Mhm.
my fridge, and if
Mhm.
somebody doesn't like it, you can just dissolve it out, right? So there's this nice sort of peace of mind for people who are new to fillers that they're kind of like, do I want to go down this path? Do I not? And, I usually oftentimes, I'll under inject. I tend to be very conservative in my injections. And usually people come back and they're like, oh my God, I love it. Can you just add a little bit more?
Well, yeah,
But
that's
I think
great.
it's nice to know, like, okay, you can reverse it. Once I really get to know that person's aesthetic, oftentimes we'll introduce a filler called Sculptra, which is
Mhm.
actually a biostimulatory filler. So it works completely differently from the hyaluronic acid fillers. So Sculptra works by stimulating your own cells called fibroblasts to make more collagen over time. And so it doesn't happen right away. Like I'll do Sculptra. Yes, you leave the office a little swollen, but a couple of hours later, you actually pee out a lot of that water. And
Mhm.
it's sort of underwhelming. It's like, wait, I just did this procedure, but I don't see anything. And then about 3 months later, because that's how long it takes for your own cells, your own fibroblasts to respond to that procedure and sort of notice those Sculptra molecules and start stimulating collagen synthesis. About 3 months later, that's when you see that sort of lifting and firming effect. And it can create more of those like lifting vectors that are very natural. It gives you, a really nice lift and firming effect, but it doesn't give you that plump, full look that some
Mm.
people are, really hesitant to look like. So, I think some of my patients who come in initially reluctant to do fillers, once they learn about Sculptra, and once they have it done, they're actually really open to it and very excited by it. So, I think that fillers have gotten a little bit of a bad rap. I think there are some plastic surgeons who are very vocal on social media,
Mhm.
who are saying things like, if you get certain fillers, they can't perform the facelift as effectively. Guys, I practice with some of the best plastic surgeons in the country. We treat very, very high profile, public facing personalities who really have to have, the best, most natural look. And I can tell you that the plastic surgeons that I often refer to and work with really have no problem working with patients who have had fillers. Like they don't even
Yeah.
blink. It's not like, oh, Dr.
Yeah.
Bowe, you did Sculptra, you ruined my
Yes.
facelift. Now
Yeah.
I can't do the patient's like done. I can't do anything with them. Like, believe me, these plastic surgeons have no problem working around the fillers. Sometimes they'll say take a break.
Yeah.
They'll, oh, you know what? Like I'm scheduling a facelift or I'm scheduling a lower neck lift or I'm scheduling a brow lift. And so maybe like 6 months, 8 months before, like let's hold off on fillers, leading up to it. Absolutely fine,
Yeah.
and that's totally acceptable, but I think these social media posts where some plastic surgeons are fear mongering and saying like, if you've ever had any filler ever, you're doomed and you can never get a facelift down the road. That's not been my experience having treated literally thousands of patients over the years.
I love that. Okay, let's pull back the curtain a little bit. You are a busy mom, you are a doctor, you are doing all these different things. Like, what does your day look like? Tell us, because there's so many women and men, but really women especially, who are like, how does she do all this stuff that she does? Or like, how does she schedule her life in a day-to-day way? And include the exercise and food if you can as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the very first thing, I'm a very early riser. I have a beautiful little 13-year-old. She's my miracle baby. It took me 7 years to have her with IVF
Oh.
and all the fertility awesomeness that went along with having my little miracle baby. But I try to get a lot done before she wakes up.
Mhm,
I have tons of mental clarity in the morning. So I wake
mhm,
up way before the sun. And that's also when I usually fit in my workout. I love to find a way to really unplug, come up with some kind of physical activity that really engages my mind and my body and allows me to
mhm.
be completely in the moment. So this morning, for example, I did strength training for 30 minutes and followed it with 20 minutes of yoga. And yoga is pretty much the closest thing I can come to meditation. Like if you just
Yeah.
if you sit me on the floor and tell me to breathe and just focus on breathing, like I can't do it. If I'm holding a yoga pose, I can get lost in the breath work, and
Mhm,
that's really, really good for me. And it helps me have that more focused energy, that more productive energy for the rest of the day. Like if I fill my cup in the morning, whether it's tennis, I love tennis,
mhm.
whether it's, running, if it's yoga, if it's Pilates,
So
if
you mix it up like on a daily basis?
the same way that I skin cycle with my
Yeah.
skincare, I cycle through my
Mhm.
physical workouts, and I
Yeah.
actually find that keeps it fresh for me. Like my
Yeah.
body responds better to it, my mind responds better to it. So by mixing it up, it's been incredibly helpful. I used to be one of those people who just did the same cardio routine every single day, and I can tell you that, that was not good for my muscles. It was not good for my
No.
mind. And so I respond so much better to sort of cycling through my different workouts. So I usually have coffee before I work out.
Mhm.
And then I work out. And while I'm working out, I'm steeping my tea. So I switch from my cup of coffee to my
Okay.
tea after my workout. My breakfast, I love a oat bran. I usually make sort of an oat
Mhm.
bran souffle where I
Mm.
take oat bran and then I mix it with unsweetened almond milk. I throw in a couple of egg whites. I stir it, microwave it,
Yeah.
and it turns into this insanely delicious and filling souffle texture. And then I add a little bit of maple syrup and a little bit of salt to it. It is delectable and so filling. And
So
that's my
interesting. So
breakfast.
wait, you microwave it once and then you souffle it and
So,
then
right.
you
So I actually prep the night before, and I
okay.
sometimes even prep on a Sunday where
Okay.
I'll mix the oat bran. I do half a cup of oat bran.
Uh-huh.
And then I mix it with unsweetened almond milk and I stick it in the fridge and I actually put some cinnamon on it and I stick it in
Okay.
the fridge. So then what I'll do is in the morning, I'll stir it a little bit, put it in the
Yeah.
microwave for a minute, take it out, stir it a little bit, put it in the microwave for, oh, sorry, I forgot to add my 2 egg whites. So
Yeah.
when I
Okay.
add 2 egg whites or three
Yeah.
egg whites, and that's when I do that sort of
Yeah.
microwave stir, and it becomes this homogeneous souffle texture. And then I add a
Got
little
it.
bit more almond milk, a little maple
Yeah.
syrup, a little salt, and it is delectable. And it's actually a huge portion. Like if you've
Yeah.
ever made, oat bran and like
Yeah.
taken a half a cup of dry oat bran is actually
Yeah.
pretty substantial amount. Throw in a couple of those egg whites and a little and almond milk. Like it sticks to my bones because if I'm seeing patients,
Yeah.
for a couple of
Yeah.
hours after that,
Yeah.
like sometimes I'll be in a procedure and I'll be doing a laser resurfacing on the face, the neck, the chest, and it just can go over and I don't quite have, control over my lunch break. I
Yeah.
want to make sure that I have that sustained energy, throughout the morning. So that's a great breakfast.
Love
Um,
it.
then I usually have for lunch, I'll have either in the morning, so days that I'm in the office, I'm seeing patients back to back. Days that I'm not in the office, I'm either like going to film Good Morning America, Tamron Hall Show, The View, or I'm
Yeah.
working with my team at Dr. Whitney Bowe Beauty. I have a remote team. So I
Mhm.
have some people in LA, I have some people
Yeah.
in Denver, I have some people in Maine, in Florida. I've got people all over, an incredible team, and we'll, talk about product development. We'll talk about the product pipeline. We'll talk about our clinical studies and designing the protocols and analyzing the data together. And, we have some exciting things coming up in terms of like, what are we launching? Where are we going?
Yeah.
So we'll be talking about that, during the day, during the call. So it depends sort of where I am in the office or at
How
home.
many days a week are you in the clinic or in the
So
office?
right now in the office, I'm usually 2 to 3 days in the
Okay.
office with patients, and then
And
the rest.
where's your office again? Just so people can know.
So
I know you
well,
don't.
I can't accept any new patients,
Yeah.
because my practice has been capped for 8 years.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
so it's crazy. It's wonderful. I kind of had that
Amazing.
a moment in my life where it was like I can either keep taking on new patients, but then
Yeah.
sort of compromise the time that I have with
Yeah.
patients, and not and lose that boutique experience. Like right now, I
Yes.
I have that ability to really listen, pay attention,
Love
examine,
that.
and I never feel rushed when I'm injecting. I never feel rushed when I'm doing a procedure. And if I took on more patients, a lot of my colleagues, we live in a broken system, as you know,
Yeah.
where they
Yeah.
have to see like 10, 12 patients an hour.
I know. It's
It's mind
crazy.
like I can't even imagine having a conversation and listening getting to the bottom. How do you make a diagnosis when you only have that
I
amount
agree.
of
But
time
are
with
you
somebody?
cash pay?
So I'm completely out of, yeah, I don't do any
Yeah,
insurance,
so I think
anything
that's the
anymore.
difference. I
Yeah.
think what happens is a lot of people in the traditional system, and I'm still kind of in it, I'm transitioning. Um, it's like you are in this insurance cycle where you have to see a certain number of patients to um, get the reimbursement, and then there's all this like paperwork, and it's really a broken system. But okay, go ahead.
No, my colleagues are spending more time with like coding and billing.
Yes,
They're literally
it's
spending more time
insane.
doing that than
It's
they are
insane.
face to face with their
Oh
patients. So
yeah, like
that's not the way I want to track.
I remember like a couple of years into my practice, I remember somebody saying like, well, it doesn't matter what you did with the patient in the room. It matters what you document. And I'm like, that's like the opposite of what it should be. It should be, it matters
Exactly.
what you do with the patient in the room. It was just so
So that's
bizarre.
what
And
people
I'm
say,
like,
like it didn't happen if you didn't document it. And so
yeah,
you end up feeling like you're so busy writing everything down that you don't even have that time that sitting down and
so
listening
silly.
and educating, and when physicians are not incentivized to have preventive education. Like
Yeah,
we're incentivized to either do a procedure because you get reimbursed more for doing a procedure, or you're incentivized for writing a prescription, coming up with a diagnosis, writing a prescription, putting out fires. We're not incentivized. Like when I first started practicing and I was taking insurance at that time, I remember counseling my acne patients on diet and nutrition. And I had written this groundbreaking paper on it, and I was talking all about the diet, the effect of diet on your acne. And I wanted to give people the education, the tools, and that took time. Okay,
yeah,
what are you eating for breakfast? How can we modify that? And I remember the person that I was working for at the time, he was like, this is not sustainable. Like
yeah,
you can't keep practicing this way. You can't keep educating people on preventing their
yeah,
acne or being ahead of it. Like you need to prescribe them Accutane that we can bill for. You
yeah,
need to prescribe them, or you need to do chemical peels, and you need to do injections of ILK into their pimples. And I'm like, but that's like putting out fires. It's like
yeah,
chase. Why don't I tell them the things that are creating the problem so that we can get ahead of it? And it felt so wrong. And I think
so
you
wrong.
experienced that same exact experience. It just felt so wrong. So I feel very blessed and very lucky that I was able to build like the practice of my dreams and be able to have, a clientele that can afford it. But I also recognize that there's so many people out there who can't afford, somebody like me. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm so active on social media, why I did, launch the skincare brand, why I'm so active on TV programs, national programs to educate, get information out there, debunk myths, cut through the noise. Like it really is unfair that, people don't have access to people who, are able to be more proactive and more preventive, with their health. So sorry,
100%.
we got derailed.
No, okay. So
Um,
then you come back from clinic or your, shows or meeting with your team, and then what
Lunch,
happens? Okay,
lunch, huge salad, grilled chicken, walnuts, avocado, as
love it,
many I try to eat the rainbow, as many polyphenols as I can get into that, into
love it.
that big, big, big bowl. And then my afternoon, if I'm, in the office, I continue to see patients all day. If I'm at home, again, more meetings, with my team, and with our retailers and, derm store, like
Mhm,
whoever we're working with, in
mhm.
terms of just making sure we're optimizing the customer experience. And then oftentimes my daughter gets home. She's a squash player. She plays competitive squash. She's so
That's
cute.
right.
It's like tennis, but with a little racket and a ball that doesn't
Yeah, it's
bounce
so
very
cute.
far. So you have to like
Yeah,
run after the ball.
yeah,
Anyway, it's really intense in terms of
yeah,
cardio.
yeah,
So she'll come home and my husband's a spine surgeon. So we'll all sort of, debrief about our day. We talk about
yeah,
the flowers, the good things. We talk about the
yeah,
lemons, the bad things.
yeah.
And we'll have dinner together as a family most nights, if I'm not traveling or filming a documentary or lecturing.
And
Um,
that's impressive as a spine surgeon that he's able to come to dinner every night too.
we really prioritize that as a
Yeah,
family. It was something that was so important to us. Like and it doesn't happen every night.
yeah,
There are nights that, that he's operating or that he's traveling. There are nights that I'm traveling, but as often as
100%.
we can, we
Yeah,
really try to have that, screens down, like
yeah,
all sitting down together and just sharing our day. And if one of us is not there, we'll always FaceTime and dial in the other one.
yeah,
And we have a small family. We're only a family of three, right? But we're
yeah.
really, really tight. So we try to connect every morning together and over breakfast, and we try to connect every evening together over dinner
Love
in
that.
some capacity. Yeah, yeah.
Love
Um,
that. Okay.
and then my daughter's at the age where she's like reading, after dinner, getting work
Yeah.
done. So I'm able to get, when she was little, it
Mhm.
was harder.
Yeah.
But now I'm able to continue to catch up on. I mean, when you have a startup, I'm the
Uh,
founder, CEO of a skincare brand.
totally.
I don't, you
Yeah.
doesn't it can go to bed. Like it's
Yeah.
all
Yeah. It's
consuming. It's like
always,
having
yeah.
another child. Yes,
Yes.
exactly. So,
So
you
then
know,
what's your wind down routine? What's your time you go to bed, et cetera?
so I tend to read a bunch of PubMed articles. I'm a little bit of
Yeah.
a dork. That's kind of my evening reading.
Love it.
And then I usually watch TV with my husband for a little bit. We
Yeah.
we do hold hands and try to watch a show
Ah,
together. We're watching Severance right now. And snuggle. We put my daughter to sleep, and then I'm usually, lights out around like 9:30.
mhm.
I really try to protect my sleep. I like sleep. I thrive on sleep. I do well
Yes.
sleep, so I'm
And you get up,
usually
you said you get up around what?
sometimes 5, sometimes 5:30.
Yeah. Got it. Okay.
And I try to get like natural sunlight,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
soon as I can, as soon as the sun rises, I walk outside my door and just try to get that blue light,
Love
stimulating,
it.
shutting down my melatonin and setting my circadian health for the day. And that's been really helpful. And I think between that, the regular bedtime and wake up time, exercising every day, and doing that sort of yoga and breathing, my sleep has been so much better, integrating those things into my day.
I know that for someone who's really busy like you, and this happens to me a lot as I've started to do all these entrepreneurial um, things, is
Venture.
like
Yeah.
it kind of messes with your sleep because those things kind of add a lot of stress in that evening time. And I've had to kind of try to work around that because usually the evening time is when you have time to kind of dive in or like try to figure out the issues or problems. And then I had to realize like, okay, actually I need to move that to a different time of the day because it's like, then I'm going to bed kind of worried or thinking about things. And so there's a lot of like things that I've learned. I'm sure you have learned all over the years about how to kind of manage it all. What is one of the biggest things you would tell to your younger self about entrepreneurship, about or about skincare or about life in general or any of those things. I'm curious, like, is there something you're like, oh, I wish I had done this sooner. I wish I had known this.
I think one of the things that I wish I had known earlier was how important it is to try to do something like yoga or Pilates. Like
Mm,
I really was in medical school. I was at University of Pennsylvania for medical school, and I
hmm
used to run along the river. You can actually,
hmm
it's a beautiful scenic run. And like for me, that running and like dripping with sweat was
Yeah.
basically how what I thought a workout was. And I remember even at that time, like I was going through fertility. I started trying to have, I got married very, very young, 24, and we
Wow.
started to try to have a
Did you guys
family.
meet in med school or how did you meet?
My husband, we both were at Yale. My husband was a senior when I was a freshman, and we actually met
Ah,
afterwards. So I had gotten a full ride scholarship to 8 different medical schools, and one of them was Mount
amazing.
Sinai, which is where he was graduating from. And I had to make the decision because if it's a full ride scholarship, they give you like a small window of time to accept the scholarship. So I
Okay.
kind of had like 2 weeks to give the
Yeah.
decision, make the decision. And the person who was supposed to take me on the tour and give me sort of that like insider scoop, like we had this whole
Yeah.
Yale like alumni network. Her name was Caroline. She's actually a dear friend of mine. She's an endocrinologist in the city. And last minute, she totally backed out on me. Like she completely bailed. And I was like, oh, wait. So she was supposed to give me the tour. She was supposed to like give me the whole thing. I was going
Yeah.
to come over. So I was like, Caroline, like, how am I going to make this decision if and she's like, okay, don't
Yeah.
worry. There's this list, Yale has this list. Like, I'm going to
Yeah.
share the list with you. You can go down the list. Somebody's going to be
Yeah.
able to talk to you about it. So the person who picked up was my husband.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
to this day, we are like indebted to Caroline. We're like, thank
Aw,
you so much for completely just dropping the ball
that's
because we
hilarious.
never would have met. So I remember being on the phone with him and I was like, look, I have to decide. Like, I
Yeah.
love this idea that Mount Sinai is pass fail. I'm
Yeah.
very type A. I'm
Yeah.
ambitious. I love the idea of being in an environment that is pass fail and doesn't like push me to be even harder on myself.
Yeah.
And he completely brainwashed me into going to Penn because he knew we had matched for orthopedic surgery at Penn for
Oh.
residency. And he's like, "Oh, Penn's the best. It's amazing. It's so low key." I was like, "But I don't want it to be competitive." It's not competitive. I get there. It was like an accelerated program. It was super
That,
competitive. I'm like, "What happened?
that's so
How did I
funny.
end up here?" So he proposed within like 6 months of even meeting me.
Wow.
I'm sorry, but I love you and we're going to get married. It's all going to be okay. And it was all okay. I mean, I ended up getting an incredible education at Penn. I loved
Yeah.
it. And it really opened up every single door. Like, I wanted to be a colorectal surgeon. That was my path. And my husband was 4 years ahead of me and he was doing
Yeah.
surgery. And he was like, Whit, like you need your sleep. Like I can
Yeah.
with like no sleep, but he's like, I
Yeah.
see you and you're sleeping, you're like 8 hours a night.
Yeah.
I don't know if surgeries, he's like, why don't you look at these other fields? Why don't you look at radiology,
Yeah.
ophthalmology,
Yeah.
dermatology? And I was like, no, I'm too hardcore. I want
Yeah.
to be a
Totally.
surgeon like you, right? And then I did the dermatology rotation. Just I was like, fine, I'll do the rotation. And I fell in love with it. And I was like, oh my God, this is incredible. Like you can use your hands, which I'm really good at using my hands, but there's also the infectious disease component, the
Mm.
pediatric component. I just completely fell in love. Amy, I feel like I completely went off track.
No, keep going. I love this. This is your story. I want to hear about it. Okay, so then where'd you do your residency again?
So I was undergrad, I was at Yale, then I was at
Yeah.
University of Pennsylvania for medical school. I was at downstate for residency. The
Yeah.
reason being because we covered 10 hospitals that had all different skin tones and
Yeah.
colors
Love
and
that.
ethnicities. And from a dermatology perspective, that's very important because there's some
Totally.
hospitals where everybody's white. And if you only
Yes.
diagnose skin conditions in white skin and you see it the same thing in somebody who is Caribbean black or Indian or Asian skin, if you're
Yeah.
not trained to see that and recognize it and diagnose it, or treat it with a laser, you just screw up, right? So
No, it's an incredible experience to get exposed to all different types of people like that.
exactly,
So
that
that's
was
great.
really important to me, right? So
And
I did
then you
that.
guys settled
We lived
back.
in Brooklyn. We lived in
Yeah,
Brooklyn for
okay.
a while.
Okay.
And my daughter was born finally,
Yeah.
after
Yay.
all the years of trying. And then we moved to the burbs. Now I live in Greenwich. I'm in Greenwich,
Yeah.
Connecticut. But I practice in New York. Yeah.
Love it. So, the reason why I think it's really good for us to talk about that is that a lot of people, they might see you on shows, or they might see your social media, and they might know your skincare, but they may not know like the backstory of who you are, like where
Yeah.
you're from, like what you believe in. And I think that's what I really wanted to get the audience to know about, like really who you are and like how are you handling, aging and all the things that come with perimenopause and life, being a boss lady and all of that. I think that part is really important to know, so that the advice that you're giving to your younger self, like you said, Pilates and yoga, that's really important, because I think a lot of people think that the only way to get in shape is to do these like adrenaline filled workouts. So what are you working on next? And tell us about this viral um, lip
Skin
product.
cycling.
Yeah.
So, oh, you mean the triliptide?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So triliptide. So for those of you who are watching, I'll hold it up, but I know many of you are going to be listening. So this has been wild. So I formulated, so the thing with Dr. Whitney Bowe Beauty is we formulate all of our skincare from scratch. So we actually like custom formulated all from
Yeah.
tips.
Not like a lot of people just put their name on something that's already formulated. Yeah.
That's exactly the truth, is that there's a lot of basically taking what's called a chassis or a base, where the
Yeah.
formula is 99% already done and being used by a bunch of different brands, and then sort of sprinkling in a couple of like, ingredients that you can use for marketing, right? That's not how we approach.
Mm-hmm.
I was a lead, I was a thought leader, key opinion leader, advisor, consultant for so many global skincare brands over the years. I know all the shortcuts. I know how to do it right. So, when we decided to create our product line, I was like, look, guys, like this is going to be one of those things we're going to literally be building a formulation from the ground up. And that may take time. And it often does. It often takes years to get the stability, to get the
Yeah.
sensorial experience the right way. So when it came to the lip product, I basically, out there's lip plumpers, traditional lip plumpers, the way
Mm-hmm.
that they usually work is by irritating the lips. They create irritation, they create edema, which is basically
Mm-hmm.
swelling in the lips. So it's great for like a quick viral TikTok, right? Where you're like,
Yeah.
look at half of my lips that I put the product on and
Yeah.
they're blowing up. But then a couple of hours later, more often than not, people notice that their lips are dehydrated, they're
Mm-hmm.
deflated, and they're irritated. If you use those ingredients, again and again, they can actually irritate the lips. They're not healthy for the lips, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my goal, I said to my team, I'm like, I want to create something that's going to mimic the procedures that I do in the office, like a lip flip or lip filler, really restore that youthful architecture, add volume to the lip, give you back, really target all those signs of aging that we're experiencing in the lips, but in a way that's good for the lips, in a way that works slowly over time. And so that was what we did with triliptide. And with triliptide, I started with palmitrol tripeptide 1. It's basically it's a fragment of collagen that's called a matrikine. So it sends cellular signals into the skin. And what happens as we age is that the collagen bundles outlining the border of our lip, they tend to decrease in abundance. They lose their healthy structure. So I wanted to use one of those cellular signals that's actually going to be able to communicate with the cells and basically sort of make them behave as though they're more youthful, younger. And so we were able to, if you use the triliptide consistently, at least 3 times a day for a month, we did rigorous clinical studies showing that you can actually enhance the definition of what's called the Cupid's bow. Imagine holding a lip pencil and putting it,
Mm-hmm.
drawing that border of the upper lip, right, where you
Mm-hmm.
put that lip pencil. We can actually enhance that definition up to 28% and increase lip volume up to 21% if you use it consistently. So it's not one of those like irritate, works
Yeah.
immediately, goes away. It's really something that takes a little bit of time to work, but even when you put it on immediately, it just gives you this beautiful glass-like shine. It's comforting, it's nourishing. We tested it post-procedure. So people who have lip, treatment done and
Yeah.
they want that calming, soothing, something's going to help them heal and recover more quickly. So we actually show that it does help. So even the most vulnerable, dehydrated, inflamed lips, it's amazing during the winter if you have chapped lips, but it gives you that beautiful glass-like shine. And then if you use it consistently over time, that's when you get that, that beautiful architecture back to the lips, which so many women, miss. But I think a lot of women are afraid of getting lip procedures done. We've seen too many lip fillers gone wrong. We've seen too many people with sausage shaped lips, and
100%.
so I think a lot of people are like, I don't want to go there, but what else can I do from home? No needles.
How can people get a hold of your products?
So Dr. Whitney Bowe Beauty,
Uh-huh.
we have our website, Dr. Whitney Bowe Beauty. You can purchase all of our products there. We also have Derm Store is a retail partner of ours. So they also
Nice.
carry a bunch of our products. So I anticipate this one is going to be selling out pretty soon, which is like one of those
So,
problems that's good to have, but a little
yes.
scary as a founder. So whenever anything's sold out on our website, usually Derm Store has a little bit left over or vice versa. So it's nice to have a partner that we can sort of tag team and be like, oh, we're sold out. Can we send everybody?
Oh,
Which is
that's
really
so exciting. That's a good problem to have.
it is.
Um,
It is. We're also launching somewhere else very soon that I'm really excited about, but I can't share it just yet. It might be live by the time this podcast airs, but it's still top secret right now. But I'm really excited about that too.
that's very, very exciting. Tell me this, what is upcoming for you? What are you working on? Like, what is your vision? And then the last question is, what do you see as trends that are real things that are coming up in the horizon in the world of skin or makeup or dermatology in general?
So first of all, in terms of projects, like one of the things that I'm 46. One
Mhm.
of the things that I'm finding more and more fulfilling at this point in my life is just really connecting with other women who
Mm.
are at a similar stage in life as I am, and just collaborating with them, supporting them. I'm doing something now on social media called the Bow Pro series, where I'm highlighting and spotlighting other women that are really experts in their field, whether it's, a makeup artist, a plastic surgeon,
Mm.
you are invited,
I
Dr.
love that.
I would
I
love to
I
highlight
love
you.
that because that event that we met at was such a women's empowerment thing that I kept thinking after. I'm like, I want to do more of that kind of thing because I think that
Yes.
everyone benefits. Like everyone in the room benefited, anyone that was interacting with each other benefited. So that's very exciting.
And it fuels the soul to make those connections. I feel like,
Yes.
especially as a mom, where like
Yeah.
a lot of my social life revolved around my daughter for so long.
Yes.
Like if we couldn't come up with a play date that made sense for her,
Yeah.
but now she's at an age where I can go out with a group of women or
Yes.
another woman and enjoy their company and feel connected in a completely different way. So for me, that is a really important, and especially other women that are working as hard as I am and and are
Yes.
passionate about health and about reaching people, like to be able to connect and support them and do things with them, especially on social media where other women can watch and feel inspired. Like that's been really an exciting project for me. I also have been mentoring more. So I actually took on
Mm.
a bunch of medical students. Like I'm at that point in my life where I want to give back, right? And
Yeah.
always publishing clinical studies. I've published over 40 peer-reviewed scientific publications, book chapters. I've lectured internationally, and we're actually doing tons of publications even on our skincare products. So, I've been mentoring
Amazing.
these students. It's so hard to match in dermatology. So
Yeah.
I've been mentoring these medical students who want to match in derm, and they've been benefiting from the fact that we're sort of collecting all this data, right? And we're funding the studies, but they're able to be first author. They're able to get involved in the process of writing the manuscript, submitting the manuscript, going on podium. So, that's been
Love
really
that.
fun for me as well.
I
I'm
know. I wish I had a mentor like that. I mean, I had a
Right.
mentor that was amazing and she really changed my life. And I think that's the power of having a strong female mentor. If you're,
Yes.
especially when you're like, I was looking at her, like, how does she handle it? She has kids, she has a family, like how, like not just the publication part. I was like watching all of the ways she navigated being a professor and then being, like being a lecturer and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So I think it's super cool and important that you're doing that. I need my daughter. My daughter's 15, not too much older than yours, but I feel like having them meet people that are like doing amazing things outside of their mom is very important. And so next time we're in New York, we'll meet with the girls too.
I would love that. I know my daughter would absolutely love that. It would be so much fun.
So what do you think is the big trends coming up that are you're seeing kind of bubbling up that you're like, this is going to be big in 2025 or um, anything?
Yeah, I think that post-procedure care, like
Yeah.
things that you can do after, like a lot of med spas are
Yeah.
growing and popping up all over the place. And, I think that people are just becoming more and more comfortable with this idea of getting like facials or Botox or chemical peels, in some kind of a setting, but they want skincare that's going to sort of complement that, enhance the results, extend
Mm,
the results.
mm,
If they're getting something to firm the skin and fine lines and wrinkles, they want an at-home product that's going to make it work even better and make it work even longer. So I think that's a trend in skincare, at least that I'm seeing,
love
is
that.
sort of like post-procedure. Peptides are a really hot
Yes.
topic right now. So peptides, I formulated a retinol treatment because retinol is 10 times more bioavailable than retinol.
Love it.
But there's still some people out there that just don't want a retinoid. I love
Yeah.
retinoids, and I'm always trying to talk people into trying to cycle a retinoid into their routine. But there is this concept of like, is there something that's going to be an alternative for people maybe who are pregnant or people who,
Yeah.
their skin is just so sensitive that they can't
Yeah.
tolerate any retinoid out there, and I think that there's some really promising science behind certain peptides that are able to work with a different mechanism of action, but still
Mm,
stimulate collagen in the skin.
love it.
I think that in terms of other trends that I'm seeing, I think natural is like having a natural aesthetic. Like if you look at, Lindsay Lohan and some of the
Yeah.
celebrities now, like I think that overfilled, overdone look
Mhm.
is hopefully behind us.
Yeah.
And I think that people are embracing more of like, what can I do to maintain a healthy aesthetic and look refreshed, but still look like myself, and not look like somebody, not everybody's not all trying to look like the same high cheekbone, big lips, arched eyebrow, frozen
Yeah.
forehead. Like I think that we are in general as a society gravitating more towards more of a natural, healthy aesthetic. And I think that people are also more aware of the skin gut mind connection and the fact that like you can't just put a band-aid on something. You can't just think about the outside in. You have to think about the inside out and, really sort of thinking more holistically about their health and more proactively about their health. So I just think we're going to see more and more science behind that. I just recently filmed a documentary about that it's called Shield. It's almost like a
Oh
spin-off of
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Healed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And so I think that they're trying to like talk about women's health. I think it's coming out this summer, but they're looking at women's health from more of like a preventive, prophylactic kind of perspective and thinking about things like red light and LED and,
Yeah.
what are ways that we can take care of ourselves, using the most cutting edge technologies, but in a way that's more like preventive and proactive, as opposed to sort of just going and waiting until things are bad enough and getting a facelift or going on a prescription medication.
No, I love that. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for talking about things that I think we all need clarity about how to take care of our skin and also about just how you got to where you are, how you uh kind of operate on a day-to-day basis and your future plans. So thank you so much for being here. I can't wait for us to be able to meet in person again and good luck with the all the launches. I have so much, there's so much we could talk about. We could talk about for hours, but we'll have to do this again.
Amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Amy.
Have a great rest of the day.
You too.
Awesome.